found out about this company, you know, again, I've always been very attracted to like fun, fashionable accessories. So it was no surprise that I would be pulled in that direction. But then when I realized that there was kind of a purpose underneath of it, and I clicked on the products and saw these amazing artisan folks that were making the pieces, found out about it, but was in, you know, a pretty sticky situation, and it wasn't the time for me to dive in and become an ambassador. But there were some things, some chips fell how they will, and not too long after, it was one of those like God moments where it was like I knew that was what I was supposed to do.
Hello and welcome. My name's Carey Sheffield, photographer and CEO of my own successful business. I'm also the host of SheNETworks, a great believer in lifting up women and loyal supporter to those that are around me. We're all surrounded by incredible women who are breaking the molds in this thing called life. Behind every successful online persona is a real person facing struggles, failures, and living real life stories that don't always have happy endings. We will have an honest conversation, dispel this myth of perfection, and find out what they consider a success, how they achieved it, and learn what they are still reaching for. You are not alone. Join the conversation. So I'm so happy I get to have you here. Melonie Rosenfarb, did I say that correctly?
You did.
Okay. Yeah. Stylist, you always look so chic, advocate, photographer, and aspiring inspirer. Yeah. Which I haven't had any bubbles yet, so I can still say that. So, and I love it. I think you probably went away one day and thought, you know, and come up with this lovely title. We know each other because of, you know, the great women in our lives that are networkers, and I met you through, I think, nearly every episode this round, Danielle Newbold and Miles Ago has come up, but that's how we met. And you are working with Noonday Collection. So that's about as much as I know about you. I know that you like to road trip, and I know that you like mountains and log cabins. So I want to fill in all the gaps on that. Okay. So introduce yourself, what you're all about, and we'll start talking about Noonday too.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, the mountains and the road trips is a pretty good summation, I would say. So I am a Noonday ambassador, as you mentioned. You know, when somebody asks you to come up with a bio, it's like, well, I'm that, and I'm other things too. And so trying to come up with like, who am I as a person and how did I get here is something that I enjoy thinking about and then sharing as well. So I live here in Orlando and have for 18 years. I always joke and say it's against my will in a way. I'm not
I can relate.
A lover of the weather and all that, but I love the people. And so I'm really thankful that I have a sweet community of folks here. And we've made our life here, at least for the short term.
Where are you from originally?
I am originally from Eastern Ohio, in the middle of nowhere, near Pittsburgh.
Right.
So I always watch you going up to visit your daughter.
I know I'm going to miss it. It's kind of over now. Well, I will be the rest of this year. She's working there, but yes.
Okay. I wondered about that.
She graduated.
So she graduated, I saw, but is she
She has a
elsewhere?
show there this summer.
Okay.
And then she's not there right now. She's at home. And then she's moving to New York. Wow. But you know, the alumni go back to Carnegie and do stuff, and I'm sure she'll do shows. But I've enjoyed Pittsburgh. It's been fun. Yeah,
it's a great little place. So yeah, I grew up very small town.
Well, you look like a Californian girl.
Oh gosh, thanks.
You've got that style. I've been to Pittsburgh. It's a little bit grey. People wear a lot of layers, but
I wouldn't say that my style, my love of fashion didn't necessarily come from where it came from. That's developed since I left.
Yes,
yeah, especially even through, I always loved accessories. I always loved fashion, but it definitely wasn't like.
Where did you go to college?
The Ohio State University.
Yeah, okay.
Was there for 5 years. Graduated with a with an undergrad in occupational therapy of all things. So nothing to do with fashion.
Or photography.
Photography.
Yeah.
No, those things kind of all came.
So you graduated from college, and then what did you start doing with yourself?
So for the first 15 years of my professional career, let me back up. I started off in occupational therapy. At the time, it was not a very lucrative career, and I had a lot of college debt, and so I got scared. And then I did a little trial run in pharmaceutical sales, and that was a lot. I was a good salesperson, but I had zero boundaries, and I worked a lot, and I was making lots of money, and kind of the things that I had always thought would help me feel successful and full of
you find
purpose,
out that actually you still
you're
not ticking all the boxes.
It doesn't actually matter. And so I left sales and went back into healthcare. I practiced as an OT for 15 total years. It was something I really enjoyed, and I loved like patient care and like helping. So OT is the whole purpose of what we do, is to help people find what's meaningful to them and help them accomplish it. And so whether they've had a stroke or they were born with a diagnosis that prohibits that, we've helped find a way for them to achieve whatever it is that they hope to become. So
and which is a wonderful vocation. You've got this lovely disposition. Around people. You make people, the way you're just looking at me now, you're actually interested in listening and paying attention. So when did it shift? What did it shift into? And so life shifts, I imagine.
Life shifted so much.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about, because I feel like, and I don't know you well enough to know this, but I feel like something major probably happened in your life and you had a big shift, and so that changed, the way you live in your personal life and in your work life, and then becoming an advocate. So just paint the story of how we get to where we are today.
Sure. So something major definitely did happen, as it does to most of us. In my life, it was divorce. I was in the middle of a, I didn't realize then, but it was a very dysfunctional marriage. It wasn't healthy for me to be in. I had gotten pregnant, and so, I was really committed to seeing it through and wanting to stay married, but it didn't work out. So I got a divorce, and I ended up as a single mother, which was basically my worst nightmare come true.
Can I ask how old you were around about that time?
I had my daughter when I was 31, okay. So by the time I was 33, I was on my own with her, and kind of repeating my past, which is being the daughter of a single mother, and I had envisioned for things to look very differently. So I ended up going back into healthcare because it was a reliable career that I could fall easily back into. And thankfully at the time I had a great manager who was willing to be creative with me with my schedule so that I could work full-time enough to have benefits and support Sayla and I, but I could also not come and get her at 6:30 p.m. every night.
So that was that. And so that was your personal life. And so you went back into medical, but you're also the stylist and fashionable and a creative. When did you start to bring creativity into your life?
So creativity was always a part of my life. And I think...
And what did that look like? Yeah, what
growing up, I didn't know, and it wasn't kind of like fostered in me, like to pursue art, to pursue creativity. Like I didn't think that I could have a lucrative career, as a photographer, or as a graphic designer. Had I known what was out there, I think I probably would have tried to pursue. What did Mom do? Mom was a UPS driver.
Oh, your mom. Okay. Yeah. And so was she creative? I mean, we're all creative in some way or another.
My mother is actually a very creative person. Yeah. It's, blue collar or not, she can do landscape design like nobody's business.
But she was doing what you have to do.
Comes up with costumes and all kinds of,
I was good at that as a single mum too. But yeah. Okay. So you had it there. But when did you start thinking, well, actually, I'd like to do this more and get paid to do it and live in that environment and, use it?
So my return to occupational therapy was more out of necessity than it was like, oh, this is what I want to do with my life. Like the creative person inside of me and the domestic person was always there and wanting to be able to be lived out, but I didn't have the opportunity. So when my daughter was little, I learned a lot more about photography because I wanted to take good pictures of her. That's
very often how women start in photography.
So, and it was just getting a camera. I had a friend who was doing it and getting paid, so she was willing to teach me. and kind of show me the ropes a bit. And I learned on my own, and eventually people were willing to pay me, to do family sessions and some weddings and that kind of thing. It's not something that I've ever, I look up to your work. I think it's incredible. It's not something that I've ever taken kind of like mainstream and done a lot with. And the more that I step into, I think, who I actually really am, it's like a tool that I have that I get excited to use in the means that it inspires me.
And that's a good thing, because I think I'm in a different place where it's been my life for 20 years. It wasn't everything I've always done, but for 20 years. And so now I'm at that point where it doesn't inspire me creatively anymore. So I almost need to do less of it so that I can go back to it creatively. So I have to do projects in order to be stimulated. I like using words and images. And so yes, I needed to work and earn money too. And I did it around the children. It wasn't the children that inspired me to pick up the camera. Picking up the camera is just something that I could do and work around the kids with it. And like now, I mean, I've served my time when it comes to taking pictures of kids.
Oh Lord.
Right. I've done it. Like when I first started, I was doing 15 family shoots a day and whatever. Now, if I'm at a party and someone says, "Oh, I want family photos," I'm like, "Oh, I can give you someone's number." Because I don't want to do it, and I'm more interested in talent and actors and CEOs and personal, intimate photography, and just not. I'm not doing all the things. Yeah. So that's it. So I think it's find it and create. I don't feel like my job is creative, which is crazy. I'm a photographer. I feel like my job is my job, and when I feel I'm being creative, is when I'm doing a project or I'm using my skill as a photographer to add to writing or going out and documenting people that, strangers or whatever. So like you said, it's an element of something that makes you you. It's not the whole thing that makes you you. So there's that, and then there's your style. And tell me when did you move to Orlando? And why did you move to Orlando?
Okay. Moved to Orlando I got married, and my husband at the time was getting his master's degree. Right. And it was supposed to be 22 months and done, and going back to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I lived. And it very quickly turned into what is now almost 19 years. Yeah,
I know. I mean, it's crazy. I've been here 9 years. It's gone so fast. It's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, it feels like it's been a lot longer, but in some ways, it has gone very fast.
Yeah, and you got remarried.
I did.
That's quite recent, isn't it?
It's been. It'll be 8 years in October. So
okay, so I've been here longer than you've been married, which is a crazy thing to think about. Yeah, and I think, but you guys travel up to North Carolina quite often.
We do. Yeah. That was we joke. That was part of my interview process with him. Like, are you willing to travel there quite a bit, and will you move there with me someday? Once our kids are grown. And he was like, "Well, sure, yeah." So
great. Yeah, he looks like a really great guy. When did you stop being an occupational therapist and start moving into more creative endeavors? And I know they encapsulate lots of different things.
Yeah. So I found out about Noonday when my daughter was...
So you moved from OT to Noonday?
Ish.
Okay.
There's more of a story there. Yeah. My daughter was little. I was in the middle of a divorce, and I found out about this company. Again, I've always been very attracted to like fun, fashionable accessories. So it was no surprise that I would be pulled in that direction. But then when I realized that there was kind of a purpose underneath of it, and I clicked on the products and saw these amazing artisan folks that were making the pieces, found out about it, but was in, a pretty sticky situation, and it wasn't the time for me to dive in and become an ambassador. But there were some chips fell how they will, and not too long after, it was one of those like God moments where it was like I knew that was what I was supposed to do. So I did that, as well as occupational therapy. I had my daughter part of the time so that I could do, occasional trunk shows and events when I didn't have her, and still be making, an income as an occupational therapist as well.
It's interesting because when I look at you, and I'm going to have to get you to talk about Noonday in more description for everybody. When I look at you, you are Noonday. So the fact that you kind of went to Noonday, I'm thinking, well, did you not start it? Was it not yours? Was it not the thing you always did? Because you represent so well, I thought it was just you.
Yeah.
So tell us about Noonday and how you came across it and got involved.
So I found it on a mom blog one day. It had just started, and it was actually an adoption fundraiser for one family that turned into this beautiful fair trade business. And so found it there, learned more about it, was very drawn to the whole idea of becoming an ambassador and advocating for the folks that we partner with around the world. And very quickly, started, I can sell things. Like if I'm passionate about something, I will talk about it all day long, just because that's kind of how God made me.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when I'm passionate about a product, that I'm wearing or that I see somewhere, like I want to tell my friends, I want to share it with people.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't hard for me to do that. I just did it kind of minimally for a while, and was still, practicing in healthcare. And then when I met my husband, he and I, we merged our lives, we blended our families.
And so you have your daughter, and he had children.
He has a son.
Yeah, okay,
so together we have the two, and now we have 2 fur babies as well.
Yeah.
So I was still practicing OT when I met Brian, and then kind of, it was him, like we had moved into a new house, and I was doing what they call PRN. So I would work as I was able, or kind of in between when we didn't have the kids or everything. And, otherwise I was doing chauffeur work and driving all around town to pick up our kids and take them all the places. And that's when I was able to kind of step in and take Noonday more seriously.
And so Noonday, you said it was born from raising money for a family. Adoption.
Yeah, for an adoption.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So Jessica Honegger is a friend of mine, and I've been doing this business now for almost 12 years. I just traveled with her to Uganda. Yeah. Jessica was adopting a little boy from Rwanda. And they were very much in need of being able to raise support to do it. They were like in the real estate crisis, and so the savings that they did have had dwindled, and they needed to figure out a way, because it's like $40,000 to $50,000 to bring home a kid from overseas.
And I need to understand who's getting that money, because I know that kind of money is not being thrown around in Rwanda.
Yeah. No,
so
I think it's
on
red tape, and like they realize that they can charge that much money, and so they do. I don't want to demonize anybody, but
no, of course not. And it's just interesting because and I know it's the same with Asia too. And I was a member of the Dying Rooms Trust, and that was about babies in China and what happens there, and that's a whole different podcast. But I've been to Rwanda with a charity called Zoe, which is about empowering orphans, and there's such a stigma in that part of the world, Uganda, Rwanda. A lot of children are born out of rape. Uganda, it's still legal to use rape as warfare, and so it's a lot of young women are raped, and then they end up pregnant, and then once they're solid, if you like, or had a baby, they're no good 21, and they're left alone with these babies. There's lots of AIDS and all these. So there are a lot. The mass genocide of 1994 created a lot of issues and mental health issues, and then so yes, there's a lot of orphans.
It's all.
And there are children of 5 years old raising themselves out in the streets, and they are ignored and abandoned like they're aliens. They're real outcasts. So I know there's a need there. Yes, it's interesting that they came across this young child from Rwanda. How do you know how they managed? Why they were looking in that direction? Was it church related or?
I don't know if it's necessarily church or missions related, but she had traveled to Africa before. I'm not sure exactly how they found Jack.
Because a lot of kids come from Asia and they get adopted. You see a lot of families here with teenagers that they've adopted from Korea or China or whatever. So it's interesting. You don't hear about adoption so much.
So what's crazy is now that I'm in the community that I'm in, I would have said the same 10 years ago, but now that I'm in the community that I'm in, so many of the women that are ambassadors now or that have been ambassadors joined because they were adoptive moms or because they were adopting. And, the presence of orphans that happen to be from Africa, that are now kids of my friends is actually pretty wide. Yeah.
Wow, okay. Yeah. So it is about personal public
connections.
perception.
Yeah. And I think they get connected through, like Jessica had done some work for an organization called Food for the Hungry, and I know she had a lot of contacts kind of around the world that were missionaries and or folks that were associated with that agency and IJM, International Justice Mission.
Right, okay.
So I'm not exactly sure how they found him, but they did find him and they felt called to him.
Yeah.
And she had done some travel, I believe, in Rwanda already, so maybe she just felt led that was the country.
Too. I mean, it is amazing. But, you know, and I do, where possible, I want to see kids stay where they come from, because, and especially Rwanda, there is this idea that all these poor kids, you know, and this perception of African are running around barefoot and in the dirt kind of thing. As long as people are happy and fed and not being mistreated and are in a safe, loving environment, our lifestyle is not better than the lifestyle they're living.
That's one of the biggest takeaways for me every time I travel, is that I love seeing the simplicity of life
and
in another
the
place.
joy in these kids,
The
just
joy.
by looking at them and acknowledging. But I went through some training where Help Without Hurting. You may have come across that book, working in charity, but it's about my beliefs. Like if I go and build a brick house in Africa or a brick school, whatever, and I take my team of people and my money in it, the local community aren't invested in it because we created it. If you empower those people to build it for themselves and in their own culture and make it, then they'll believe in it.
Are you a reader?
A little bit, yeah.
The Poisonwood Bible. Have you ever read that book?
The which one?
It's called The Poisonwood Bible. It's that exact premise.
Yeah.
It's a person moving in and putting his belief system on the local people that have no clue what he's doing.
Yes.
That don't feel cared for by his type of help. So it's that exact premise.
Yeah, they made us watch this great video, Zoe, where a bunch of Vikings come to America and start smashing the computers because they're killing our brains and try and make us eat raw fish and take away our cereal bars. They're just saying that it's just differences.
Yeah.
And but anyway, so that's great. And Noonday raised that, so she founded that to raise money for their adoption. Wonderful. What now? I know that Noonday are supporting local artisans, making beautiful products. Where is the money going, and what countries are you sourcing from right now? So I know you traveled more than one time, so tell me about your trips.
I have. Okay, so to back up to what you originally asked, Noonday Collection is technically not a charity.
Okay.
We are in partnership with artisan groups that determine their prices, set contracts the way that they want them.
You're a facilitator for these artists.
Exactly. We basically receive their products and give them a global marketplace and open up a lot more possibilities.
But the
for them and
charity
their
thing
people.
that she's, the thing that she was doing, which is raising money, which is a charity effectively,
Sure.
created this opportunity.
Yeah,
and
it was Jessica didn't set out, oh man, I'm going to do this amazing business idea.
Yeah.
It was more like there's a need, there's a profound need for dignified work in places where, oftentimes they're exploited. Agriculture is one of the only things that they can work in, and they're abused by their bosses and not paid fairly, all that thing. So she realized, wait a minute, there's a bigger opportunity here. Yeah. She was paired up with one original artisan that happened to have a surplus of items that wasn't selling in their local community. They sent it home. She had a little get together with friends, and everybody went crazy over what is fun for us to wear and be fashionable in. So it turned into a much bigger thing than Jessica ever dreamed that it would. And so throughout my time as an ambassador, I personally had kind of like I said, I know I can sell things. I know when I believe in something, I'm deeply passionate about it, and that feels like it's pretty catchy for people because they get excited too. But I kind of lacked the confidence to go out and actually share it proudly and without worrying a lot about what people thought with me sharing and all that. Yeah. So it took some time for me to step into and be courageous about the way that I shared it and be bold to ask people to help me get connected and that kind of thing. So once that happened, I began to be able to travel. Yeah. That's kind of like our incentive for
so it's like your
doing
tier
well.
system. Okay.
Yeah, old school Mary Kay, you drive a pink Cadillac, right?
Yeah.
In my situation, I get to go and connect and make friends with artisan makers, you know, in their workshops and learn about their families and their stories. Even right now, my recent trip to Uganda, I have a high schooler that is reaching out to me on WhatsApp frequently to check in because we got to visit her school. That's another thing that we do is we support education for female scholars there, with part of the purchases as well. So absolutely. It's not a, you know, charitable organization, but it's doing so much good in the world through empowering the artisans with jobs. I mean,
the mentality behind it, I think, is charitable.
Sure.
And
I think when people hear the word charity, though, sometimes there's a rub because they are afraid that you're going to go in and try to put your way of doing things onto someone else. And so there's definitely a difference, but the spirit is the same, which is we're giving. We're freely giving to people that need it. So that's what I get really excited about.
So it is a company and people are profiting from it. You are doing good with it, but you're also... I think it was Dora Majori too that she did this thing where she helped people make chains. You know, there are like you said, finding jobs for people or vocations for people that wouldn't necessarily find them. Zoe Empowerment, they are not a charity; they're an empowerment organisation. Taught people skills so that they could run their own little businesses, so that they don't have to work in agriculture. They also did help people get paid properly and work with local government so that they weren't being abused. But what you're doing is they don't have the marketing. You know, there's people out there making beautiful bags and baskets and jewelry. They don't have the resources to go sell in America, you know, but you're bringing that here.
I'm kind of the bridge between that's like, oh my gosh, you know, instead of going to the mall and, you know, running into Nordstrom's, you know, maybe consider this amazing thing that also happens to be helping someone.
So who is sourcing from all these places and what countries are you in?
We are in 14 different developing countries. Wow. So we are in Central and South America, Africa, as well as Asia. And we've got an amazing team. We get connected through fair trade networks. And so that's kind of the system of checks and balances to make sure that it's ethical and that they are who they say they are and they're doing what they say.
They're not doing. In a factory somewhere mass producing.
Exactly. Well, mass producing or exploiting, which is so common for, you know, the other things that we buy are often made in places like that. So.
And where is Noonday being sold?
Noonday is being sold through people like me. We do have an online website that can be used to purchase anytime, but it's kind of through word of mouth. We do not have retail stores, no brick and mortar, anything.
And is that a policy that you're going to stay with? And what's the ethos behind that?
I think it's the personal connections and being able to relay the stories so that people know and understand why it matters. Yeah, I think they have always been very adamant that it's the story and that's the why. And so us being able to convey, you know, this piece was made in India by a woman named Mosmeen who was able to provide better for her kids. Like we're able to actually give the personal stories behind how things are made.
Tell us a story about Uganda. So you've just come back. You've been back about 3 weeks. And it's funny when you come back from these places, everyone's a little bit irritating around because people are complaining about small things and you've just been in this place where you think, wow, you know, and you feel joy there like you've never seen in Western countries. But tell us a story about a piece that relates back to somebody that you've met. Is there a connection that you can make?
I mean, I could make a million. I could keep you all day with just stories of people.
But these are stories, these are great to hear because people can relate and then start to feel connected.
So Noonday began in 2011. Jalya is the name of the first artisan that partnered with Jessica Honegger. Jalya has since come to America a few different times, to speak at our conference and share, but it's we have a very personal, it's not a huge company. We have a very personal relationship. Many of us do with Jalya, but for years, since 2014, I dreamed of being able to go and see Jalya in her home country with the people, they call her Mama Jalya. She is so well loved in her community and she bends over backwards to serve others and love others well. And so getting to go and be in her store, getting to, they started a daycare where they could provide kind of safety and education for kids while their parents were working. Rolling paper beads is what the group does. And so They make paper bead jewelry. And so getting to be there and seeing these kids that have been put through school while their parents are working successfully. You know, you mentioned Rwanda. We have a woman that was a refugee that came from Rwanda and kind of ended up in Jalia's doorstep, you know, and then Jalia was able to give her a job, and through the daycare and schooling, her daughter just graduated, and we got to be there to see that. They wore their little cap and gown and they had a little graduation party while we were there. Yeah. So it was really, really special.
Yeah. And so I was trying to think, my train of thought that, what did you see when you were in Uganda, the things that we take for granted, that the issues that they're facing right now? Okay, let's take a woman with children. Maybe she's alone. I mean, not just women. We focus a lot on women, and you know, and my heart goes out to all the little boys too when I'm out and I'm traveling, and you know, and I think there's a certain age group in men as well where I have a lot of sympathy because I feel like they're out on their own and they can't talk to people about their feelings and things. But in terms of just a different way of life and seeing things, what are the biggest injustices you're seeing maybe on your travels, and mainly Uganda because you've just been there? Yeah,
I think as women, and I agree with you, I think, you know, little boys that don't have a lot of support and safety, I also feel very much for them, but they also don't have all of the limitations and societal pressure that women do, and they're seen as worthy just for being there, whereas the women are typically looked down upon. They're not well taken care of, and so I think one of the biggest impressions that I had was seeing single mothers that don't have a lot of support. They may have HIV, like you mentioned, and so their families are shamed by them, or they believe that there are demonic forces. You know, there are a lot of like religious.
I know. Is it crazy, the ignorance, like, you know, the rape of children because it's going to cure AIDS, or, you know, being albino can mean that you're possessed by the devil.
Just so many things that are just so, but it's again, who are we to go in and tell them that's not the way? But I think seeing, you know, all the things that we face here as women in the US, take it to a place where poverty is so extreme and domestic violence is so common.
And also nobody cares.
Being held accountable for, you know, committing domestic violence against your wife is unheard of. And so there's just so much. It's hard enough as it is here, and then you take it there where there's no accountability, nobody look out for you, and it's a whole.
I met
level.
a woman that worked within the Zoe organization, professional woman supporting her family. Her husband left her and had multiple affairs. But she's never allowed to remarry, and there's nothing she can do about that, and she's staying alone, and his family have to give her permission to get remarried or have someone in her life, and this is an educated woman working in, you know, a big, this was for Twinings when I worked with them, you know, working for a big organization like that, and you just think, wow, we just take so much for granted. And what does Noonday want to do? What's their future?
You know, our tagline, if you will, is that we are building a flourishing world where women are empowered, where children are cherished, and where people have jobs and we are connected. And so it's fourfold. It's, you know, we very much believe in keeping keeping kids with families. If at all possible. Sometimes it's just not. Sometimes they end up in an orphanage and need to be adopted. And so,
Or not in an orphanage, they're just raising themselves.
If they're lucky, they end up, at least they have caregivers. That's very true. But having the kid component along with the artisan, you know, just empowering people to have work when they otherwise wouldn't have any opportunity to do it, or they'd make next to nothing or be exploited in some way.
Is all of your work outside of the United States in terms of the products that you sell? Is there any opportunity, do you think, within Noonday to sell things that are made here by people that are in difficult circumstances?
We don't. No, They've stayed pretty true to the global idea and being in developing places. And I think, if you're passionate about local things, you can always find local.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about the situations in poverty where people don't have the opportunity.
Yeah.
We have a better opportunity. Absolutely, I agree with you. And maybe because you're selling and it's a business, not a charity, people see the ethnicity of everything you're selling and it looks different, it looks amazing, it's colourful, it's charming, it's different to what we see here.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's why it works?
I think that's one of the components for why and how it works. And I think too, I don't want to undersell what the company has done. In the beginning, when we started, they employed refugee women that were here in the U.S.
Right.
They were able to employ them in Austin as well. So they're thinking on a bigger scale. It's more just keeping, because if it were me running the company, I would want to help everybody. And, sometimes you have to have limits.
You can't. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work and it can fail. I mean, it's one person at a time, right? That's the thing.
I think just staying true and staying focused on, kind of what your goal is, which is empowering artisan groups in marginalized places. So,
and I know that's not all that you are, but it's what I know you as. Yeah. And so now I want to know whether Noonday really changed the course of your life and how it's changed your life and how it's affecting every day. Is it something that you'll stay with, or do you feel like this is a stepping stone into something else? As a woman with children growing up and you're remarried and you're in a happy place, I know we're not happy every day, but how has it changed you? I mean, I think travel in the way you've been traveling and what you get to see does affect your everyday experience. It just does. There's no way you can go and see these people living their way they live and then come home and just carry on as per normal. Yes, I do think we get back to normality. You settle down, but it changes your mindset to what you want in life.
I would say, and sometimes I think about this lately, there have been different companies that have shut down, that have been around for a long time, that you had no indication, that we're on the verge of closing. And sometimes it causes me to catch myself to think, gosh, tomorrow, if this were all gone, what would I do? My life has radically changed because I have been a part of this community. And I want to say, because we haven't touched on that at all, that's one of the most important parts to me, is that I get to do this with other women around the country. We are all very well connected and kind of aligned in our purpose.
I was going to say, are you similar people, do you think?
So it's a very special community of women. I used to joke and say, I would literally leave a newborn baby with any of these people.
I do. Do you know what? I keep getting this visual of Joshua tree, or you're all in a commune and you have that energy about you
that's what it is.
Yes,
and it's really special. You don't find that everywhere. Some people look a whole lifetime to find friendships where they feel known and seen and supported and
that's why I want to know
collaborated with instead of competed against, and
that supported you in life. So this wasn't just a job. Do you feel that it's changed your life?
1,000,000%. Yeah. Absolutely.
And how is it affecting every day and your family, and have they bought into it? Is it something that is it a lifestyle more than just a job?
I would say absolutely it's a lifestyle. I try to incorporate just kind of ethically minded practice in everything that I do. And that was just something I didn't understand. I wasn't familiar 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I would have been the first one at a clearance rack anywhere. Yes. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I certainly don't only purchase fair trade products, but I do a whole lot more secondhand now. I do a lot less buying, the temptations for the clearance things that are made, in sweatshops or unethically. I really just try and steer away from it. So it's changed my mindset in a lot of ways. As far as my family goes, I mean, I'm really thankful that my husband is supportive of me. alongside of being a mother and a wife and, you know, being domestic, which is something that brings me a whole lot of joy. He's supportive of me spending time and energy, you know, doing this, because it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
You know, the whole compassion fatigue is real, and, you know, wanting to pour into these artisan groups and make sure that people know about them and they're purchasing to support them is something that takes a lot of my energy sometimes.
Yeah, because I imagine, and when I'm listening to you talk and I'm seeing the environment we're in, we're surrounded by, you know, I know you because of a network of people, but I met you through somebody that's working for the good of others. But there's a lot of entrepreneurs around here. There's lots of business. There's lots of women in business. It can be quite a difficult circle to be in. It can be quite hard to penetrate. It's very competitive. It's very glamorous in our world over here in what we're doing. How are people receiving you when you go out into the community with your business that does look, what do I want to say kumbaya. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Your business, you either love it or not.
Yeah.
Whether or not you resonate with what you're doing in terms of fair trade or you know, like for me, I'm not a frilly person. I don't wear all I'm not as colourful as you. I wish I was. Maybe I should be a bit more, bring some joy into my life. But so I paid attention because I'm interested in what's behind what you do. And so I'll look for the things within your products that I feel I can serve you well. But cosmetically, it's not the thing that I would look to straight away. So, but I found you because we have a mutual interest in something. How are you penetrating this network of business where I feel like it's quite cliquey and it's whoever's the flavour of the month, whatever, you know, how are you finding people receive you in the community?
That's a really great question. And it's not always easy. I left an event yesterday in tears. Really? Because of the way that a neighboring business called the cops.
Really?
On me being there. Like, I was doing a pop-up. I was welcomed by the business that was there. It's not the first time that I've had like kind of like somebody that very much like a rule follower, scarcity mentality type of person that is not interested in hearing anything about the good that we're trying to do. And it's not like I just set up camp anywhere. You know, I had permission at a local business.
But they questioned you having permission to be there.
And then called the cops and saw to it that I was no longer there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how was the business's response to that?
Oh, they were really sad, and I mean, they did absolutely, like, they supported me being there. They want me to come back. They, you know, it's interesting because when people start getting brutal like that, it brings out another side.
Yeah, it really does.
So I certainly won't name names, but the manager was just like, you know what? Every time there's a sidewalk sale, you're going to be out there and you can sell whatever you want.
Because I've seen you at a sidewalk sale, and I remember bringing you a glass of wine because it was the end of a long day, and I know how hard that is to be up there, to be up front. People don't see you as a person, and
it's weird because some people are so kind and so, like, if they're awake and present in their day and they ask questions, I certainly don't bombard anybody that's walking past and force them to buy my products. It's more just like, if I see an interest, I'll tell them more about it. If they want to know more, I'll tell them even more, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry you had that experience, but I imagine it's not isolated. That's probably extreme, and I can't believe that happened to you. And I'm sure today coming here to chat with me was a bit exhausting because, you know, it takes a bit to get over something like that. I don't know about you, but I'll smile on that for days, and it'll stay with me. Yeah.
I see it as not a coincidence.
Right.
You know, as we're, you know, your whole purpose, I think, as I've understood it, is to be real and authentic with one another and chat about kind of not only the good, but the bad and
I
everything
want to hear
in
that.
between.
And, you know, and if you were out there and this was how you're reacting to someone that's been enterprising for themselves and for the good of others, and shame on you, you know, at the end of the day, that's a reflection on them. Like you said,
and
their insecurity.
I know that, but it's so hard and defeating, like, to just be there. I mean, it was 95 degrees outside. I hadn't done anything work related in a while, and I thought, you know what, I've got this Saturday. I'll just go. I'll pop up and hopefully, you know, be able to create. There's a little statistic that we're able to share that's very tangible. For each $150 that's spent on Noonday Collection, it supports a dignified job for a day and a class for a scholar that's pursuing higher education. So it's so purposeful. 150 bucks.
Yeah.
Like the bag that you bought a couple years ago is like just that one thing does that much good.
Yes.
And so that's what motivates me. That's what gets me out there. And I'm in 95-degree weather, but I know that it's making a difference. And I've just spent time with the people that it's making a difference for.
Yeah.
So I find great purpose in that.
Yeah. I feel like throughout COVID times, I think I met you just on the backside of COVID. I mean, it's probably a good term to call COVID forever, right? The backside of it. But I felt like people were doing more good.
Yeah.
And then, and people got very entrepreneurial and lots of businesses were happening. And now I feel like we've gone into the Thatcher years again. And when I say about that, I mean, it's like a bit like remember you might be a bit younger, the padded shoulders and everyone's out there making money and they're very self-serving and it's all about them. I feel like there are still the do-gooders out there, and I know this is a business. I think it looks more not charity. What are the words I'm looking for? Because you're trying to serve people in developing countries.
Yeah.
You have to get past that and see what it is.
Yep.
You can have people that make diamond earrings that come from a good place and artisanal, and people have a different perception of it. I think because it's more homegrown, because you're outside with a table, because you're at a pop-up selling.
It's harder to be taken seriously for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it helps you that you're an attractive woman, you're always really beautiful, and so that probably gets you in the door. There's no denying that. And this is going to sound really harsh, and people might if you were the wrong color for some people and wearing the wrong clothes and didn't sound as educated and you were trying to do that, you probably wouldn't even get in the room. But then once you're in the room, and I completely disagree with that whole mentality, but once you're in the room, to then be treated this way, how are you combating that in your own personality? Are you going to run out of the energy to do that? How do you stay passionate about something that people are fighting against?
Yeah, so it helps to kind of have the people that balance it out, because right after that happened, I met a really sweet woman who happens to be a therapist in Windermere. We chatted for a while, and it's like the human connection. That's what fuels me, man. It's like meeting people that get it, that like are awake in their life, and we can have a conversation and it matters, and you walk away thinking, gosh, I feel better for having talked to that person. The balance helps. And I do get a lot of, well, thank you for what you do. And it's fine. Like, I chose to do it.
And you're making money from it. It's what you do. It's your business. But it's fulfilling when you can sustain yourself but sustain somebody else at the same time.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, like, the income that I make is not profound by any stretch. It's not something that I could support my family on. It really is, for me, kind of like a passion project. It's kingdom work as far as I'm concerned, where I'm here and I have the opportunity to make a difference, so why wouldn't I? Yeah. I tell my husband, even if I got paid nothing, I would want to do it as a volunteer, because to me it matters so much.
And what are the organisation doing to help get you in the room in terms of that? Is it marketing? I mean, it looks very polished. It's it's the brochures and you're very, very good at texting me, emailing me, whatever. And I don't say you personally, I just mean the brand. I hear from them often. And do you think that helps you? Do you think it's got the integrity is obviously in the brand, but in terms of brand awareness, do you think is recognizable by people?
I think it's starting to become more recognizable, but I think that I think people are on overload. You asked me a little while ago, like, something along the lines of like COVID, people were wanting to do good and actively trying to do good, and now they've kind of gone back into their, foxholes.
Self-service. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a few things. I think it's not only, potentially just selfish and only concerned for themselves. I think it's overwhelm. Yeah. I think people are so busy and bombarded and anxious and lacking, boundaries, myself included, so that getting one more text message inviting you to an event that I'm having to share about Noonday is like, most people can't even think about it. Yeah. And so that's kind of currently my challenge is, sure, my company might send an email, you know, and I can be way better about customer contact. I am not great at it.
I think I'm talking about, it's about, we've got the new shirt out or a dress or a brand, you know, and I'm rubbish at follow up and getting back, because you just run out of hours of the day.
Yes. And that's what everybody I think is facing.
Yeah.
And I certainly can be and want to be kind of like a better, I want to do personal service for folks, like, not necessarily like just forcing you to, and making you feel like I'm forcing you to buy something, but like, okay, are you going on vacation this summer? Do you need a new travel bag? Like, how can I help with that? And how can I serve you? Yeah. That's really what I want my business to be, while serving other people as well.
And I also think that there's this whole perception of what success looks like. And people are racing to get to that successful point. And I, through life trauma and health things and whatever, I'm in this moment of I'm waiting for the universe to talk to me, to tell me what I should be doing next, because I don't really know. And I think it's the first time in my life I don't know. And I've always kind of been quite focused because now success looks different to me.
Have you ever heard of Richard Rohr? Do you know about he's a... Richard Rohr. It's R-O-H-R.
Okay.
He's a Franciscan friar, so he's like of the Catholic kind of tradition, if you will, but he's such an extraordinary human being, and I love his work. I'm listening to this book right now called Falling Upward, and it's a book about leaving behind our first half of life and kind of like everything we learned to help us get to where we are, and now realizing we can basically burn that down and start over. And it sounds like we're kind of in a similar position of like trying to figure out like, what's it all for? What am I really going to spend my time doing? How can I live with great intention and feel good about the life that I'm living?
And I'm at this stage where I also think, well, is that it now? I mean, when you have adult children too, they start talking to you and you realize that they think your life's over.
Oh, wow.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That because they're talking about themselves all the time, that you're just a facilitator for them now, or you become inconsequential to everything because you're post 50 or whatever. Do you know what I mean? There's this strange feeling, and I'm like, don't be ridiculous. I've got where when you think that you've lived longer than you're going to live, you start to question it. And I'm not a morbid person or anything, but I
there's
think
something very surreal about that, though. You don't have to be morbid to realize. I did the math today because I'm listening to the book, and he's like, well, the second half of life, and I was like, well, if I die today, or if I die at this point, if this is half of my life, I will have been 94 almost. Yes. And I'm like, whoa, my gosh.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, if we get to 94,
I'm
we're lucky,
to live to 94.
Yeah.
Lord willing.
And what life are we going to be having at 94? We want to live a life that we're happy in and whatever. But like success to me is doing the things that creatively inspire me. I'm lucky enough at the moment to not have to worry too much about money. We have enough money. We're not millionaires or anything, but we're in a good position. Yeah. But I want to be fulfilled. I want to be busy. I want to fill my days with things that inspire me. And no, my life's not over just yet. And so it's just working all those things out. And this is why I want to have these conversations, to meet all these different people that are living these different ways. I want people to sit on the couch and go, some arsehole called the cops on me yesterday because she's having a bad day and she probably needs hormones and living in scarcity. Yes. Which is a thing, and I've been saying to my daughter recently, when we're talking about competition in life and whatever, there's enough in the world for all of us. Yeah. And nobody said you can't have everything, and there's enough for everybody. Yeah. If we live in scarcity, we're gonna gain. We're not gonna get anything.
I mean, the lady was there, stating her case to the cops, and when the cops left, I was like, "Hi, do you mind if we have a conversation?" Yeah. And she was like, "Fine," and I was like, I wish you would have just come and talked to me.
Were you selling a similar product? Is that what her issue was?
So we did some homework. The folks, at the business that I was popping up in front of, we did some homework to come to find out we don't even think she actually is a small business owner, that she had teamed up with another small business owner, I think, that felt threatened because I was there. So I don't even think she really had skin in the game. I think that for whatever reason, she just took this as her mission for the day to shut me down. But I was like, there's it doesn't have to be scarcity. Like, we can be in collaboration with one another. And if you tell me, what your business is, I'll tell everybody I know. I want to support you. I love Winter Park. I love Park Avenue. I love supporting other people. Like, this could have gone so differently.
I know you weren't selling marijuana. You were selling earrings and bags and clothes, and it's crazy.
It is crazy. I love that you said arsehole as well. I think that's so
fantastic. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I need to.
We'll have to put a disclaimer at the beginning of the show. But it's like, come on, be nice. And I'm trying to be nice every day, and it's something we all need to work on. And I think the nicer I can be, and the more compassionate I can be, the better my life is. And you get to this point in life when. Yeah, let's not go back to the days where we're crawling over the crowd and stepping on people in order to succeed. Because I guarantee you, when you think you've got to the top, you're nowhere near it, and the top doesn't exist. It really doesn't.
Oh, every time I accomplish a goal, I mean, I've done very well as far as the company is concerned, in what I do. But isn't it funny how the lever moves just a little bit more? Like, I'll have a great sales year, and I'll be able to calculate that impact and know how much work I was able to help support for an artisan, or how much school I was able to help support for a scholar. And then I'll be darned if that lasts for like a hot second.
I was going to say, what do we do in order to? We don't celebrate our wins. No.
And I'm a celebrator of things. Yes. I love to celebrate. Yeah, I'll do it. But it's so fleeting, and then the lever moves, and the carrot is a little further away, and I push and I push and I push. And so as I, am reflecting on my life and thinking about the second half, it's a huge goal of mine to be the kind of person that's good at being. And not so caught up in what I'm going to do to prove my goodness, earn my worth, all of the things that I got so caught up in doing for the first half.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so here you are, and I want to talk a little bit about your blended family, and because I love how you see a need in your life, and I'm just seeing this just by your social media, where you just have to switch off and disappear. I see you check out and go. And tell us a little bit about that and why it's been a need for you. And I mean, it's a need for everyone, but not all of us pay attention to the need. But I see you just go, okay, we're off, we're done. Life's, it's just me and my family, and we're going to go on a road trip, and we're going to disappear in the mountains. Yeah.
That is my safe place, getting away and being with my husband and our kids, pouring back in, kind of filling back up, because I feel like I do a lot of emptying out, even just in the day-to-day, serving my family, doing everything that I do to make sure that our house runs, is kind of an emptying out. And so getting away, having experiences and adventures is a way for me to fill back up. It's a way for me to connect with them, the quality time and just the, the silliness that happens. And even the moments where everybody's frustrated with one another and the way that that's resolved, all of those things feel so different when you're away from the norm, the usual.
Yeah, and I feel like your experiences, though, aren't the annual skiing trip to Utah that everyone does, or the boat ride to the Bahamas, or and this is the world that I live in, not the world I personally get to always enjoy, but what I'm surrounded by. You really do enjoy nature, and you really do enjoy just the simplicity. What did you do recently? You couldn't come on you were on some sort of camp. Is this with your church or something? You were on this trip with a bunch of other people.
Oh my gosh, no, we did.
Yes.
So our church does an annual family camp. Yes. And we go and we stay in...
It sounds like a nightmare for me, but it looked fun.
No, and I, at the end of the day, I am a country girl, and I can pretty much hang anywhere. I can do fancy, but I don't need fancy to be okay. And this is your ground level,
it's
cabins.
Damp. You're telling me it's damp.
It's damp. There are bugs.
Elements. I've slept in mud huts. I've slept in a container in China. That was my room, but nice. That was interesting. But a shipping container I'm talking about that doubled as a hotel. Oh. Anyway, but and it's fine. I can rough it, but I don't know if I'd choose it as a trip. But I love the simplicity, and I think that's what probably you and I both don't enjoy about Orlando. For me, the concept of Orlando was always about forced plastic fun. and it's roller coasters and make believe, and it's all money and plastic and purchase. And so and some people will shoot me death for that because I absolutely adore Disney and all of the parks and everything around it. And hey, look, I'm not saying that I don't. My kids have loved it and they've enjoyed it. It doesn't rock my world necessarily, but I think that's what Orlando is represented by, and that's what people see Orlando as a British person who'd come here twice, not because she chose to, but come here twice with their kids for them because the magic and everything. Yes. Didn't see the magic, but because of all that magic, and I agree with you. What you say is the people that keep you here. There is this transient population in Orlando, and there's lots of artists, and there's lots of disruptors, and there's lots of people doing good things that do keep you here. But the call for the wild is strong when you live in this concrete, shiny, lit up jungle that is Orlando. And that's
when I first moved here, it struck me so hard that it just felt like it was one strip mall after another strip mall, and I was just like, I can't, and I don't, like, I can celebrate and I can channel my Disney spirit for like the day, but and I will, like, full disclosure, my husband works for Disney, so technically I can go there any day of the year basically. And I have like a limit of maybe twice a year that I can go. And as a matter of fact, it was really weird for me to finally like be living this lifelong dream of being in Africa. Yeah. And then having to kind of like check myself on safari to realize, wait, is this real? Like those acacia trees and everything in the distance is real. I know. And this hut is a real hut. Yeah. So it's a very interesting place to be in.
How lucky are we that we get to do all those things?
Oh my gosh. I was living like my best Lion King dreams for sure. Perfect. I was very, very fortunate.
And I feel very lucky to have sat here and had this conversation with you. It's been great. I feel like we just scratched the surface a little bit. Noonday Collection. So you are out there and you are selling at pop-ups and in front of stores where you get given permission to be there and sell your beautiful works. And yes, I need to buy more. I did buy this gorgeous little purse that I use all the time because it's great, because I don't carry a big purse, so I like to have this thing. It's just enough to put your lip gloss in, your credit card, and maybe your mobile phone. But who made that? They made it with love. Yes, you're buying a beautiful product, but you're supporting people. What can they do to help you? Where can they find you? And what resources can my listeners help you with?
Okay, so the pop-ups and the things that I do in the community are kind of like what I do when I don't have the one-on-one connection. What is most helpful is women that enjoy entertaining, that enjoy partnering for a good cause, so that I can be in community with them and share it with their people. Because ultimately, if I have a captive audience that's there because they care and they want to learn more about what I'm doing and what I'm selling, that's a way easier sell, right? Yeah. Other than the people in the community that are just walking past, that if they happen to catch these cute earrings, I might be able to tell them the story. So that's honestly best case scenario, is people that are willing to partner with me and interested in sharing it either in their homes or their businesses or a local place with their people. And then they can find me online anytime. I have a 24/7 shop that they can purchase, retail therapy late at night. I'm happy to be the place where you exercise that right. I'm on socials, of course, and just out there doing what I can.
Well, we'll share all your links, and I have something in mind that might be great for you. So thank you so much. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of today. I really loved seeing you. You are a breath of fresh air. You do make me want to wear more colour, and you bring a great energy into the room. So thank you. I appreciate you.
I appreciate that.